So in the interest of everybody's time, we are going to get going. So thank you so much for joining us. If you do not know me, I'm Andrea Baez. I am the Senior Branch Executive for the Demakes Family Campus. The last time we were here with Mayor Nicholson, he was just recently elected. So congratulations again. But here we are now. You have just completed your first 100 days. How's it been?
Well, thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you to the Y for having me back, and to all of you for being here. It's been great. I'm just thrilled to be there. I've been really excited about the team that we're building, which is such a key part of all this, is to be able to build out that team. And I think we got there with a really strong sense of what we were looking to do. You know, I wasn't running for mayor just to be mayor. We want to be able to lead the city in a certain direction, and we see just a tremendous opportunity for growth in Lynn, and really believe strongly that for that growth to be meaningful, it needs to be inclusive and benefit the whole community. And so that's what we're there for, and it's just been so thrilling to have the chance to start to work on and achieve a lot of what we were talking about on the campaign.
That's fantastic. Was there anything specific that you wanted to accomplish in the first 100 days that you can say, check, we did that, we made it happen? Or was it more that you spent the first 100 days kind of listening and figuring out what the administration needed to focus on?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we felt lucky that we had a great opportunity in the transition, because the outgoing administration, Mayor McGee and his team were incredibly helpful in sitting with us and making the connection. So I actually got an opportunity to sit with all the department heads, all the other elected officials, the city councilors and school committee members, the state delegation, and starting with community groups. You know, we did one of these, and this was all before I was inaugurated. So I feel like that really set us up to hit the ground running on January 3rd when we were sworn in. And so, yeah, definitely, I feel like we have anyone to start to achieve some of those things. So one big accomplishment that I'm really excited about in the first 100 days is that we launched and had the first few meetings for the Pickering School Building Committee. We know that the need for new schools is one of the top priorities of the city, and we have an opportunity here with Pickering, and now we've got to execute. And so that committee is live. We've put out the first step in the process there, which is a request for services for a project manager. And the way that works is that the state reimburses close to 2/3 of the cost of a new school if we follow their process, and they have a very defined process. So we're being very careful to go through that process. So it's going to be you know, it's a multi-year effort to get that moving, but we're excited that is something that we did just to start off. Another big priority for us is addressing the cost of housing in the city, and so one of the things we've done over the first 100 days is that we put together the team that's working on implementing the housing production plan. So we launched a working group that's mostly our team at City Hall that sort of is involved in housing issues. So the Lynn Housing Authority, the Law Department, Inspectional Services, our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer, and the other folks that are sort of working on housing related issues, and we've started meeting and working on implementing the Housing Lynn Plan that the city prepared over the course of the last couple of years, that was just certified this winter by the DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, as a bona fide housing production plan. And we also, in addition to the internal group at City Hall, we put together a team of external stakeholders to try to advise us in the process, because there's a lot of work to do to implement this plan. It's not the kind of thing you can just flip the switch. And we want to be communicating, getting feedback, sharing information with the community while that work is happening. We kind of don't want to just put our head down and pop up in a year. We want to be getting that community interaction throughout. So we have an external group of stakeholders, and actually this coming Tuesday, we are presenting to the Lynn City Council, the Lynn City Council's meeting on Tuesday, an update on the implementation of the housing production plan. And so we'll be able to talk a little more specifically about some of those recommendations that were in the Housing Lynn Plan and the progress we've made, we've started to make in implementing them, and kind of the timeline where it goes from here.
Wow, you have been busy. So now that we have passed the first 100 days, the next question will be, of course, so where do you see the next 100 days going for Lynn?
Right. So, I mean, this is what I think is both exciting and sometimes daunting about government, is that both of those issues I just mentioned, I think we've made some real achievements the first 100 days of moving us forward, but there's a lot more work to do on the other side of that. It's really just the beginning, and so I think it's for those issues, it's continuing to stay disciplined and focused and community-minded, and in the implementation of that work. And then the other thing is that, you know, that those were two examples of progress. We've been working on others as well, and I think what we've tried to highlight is that, yes, we're working on a lot of issues all at once, but the reality is that those issues interrelate with one another. You know, if we're making progress on housing and addressing the rising cost of housing, ultimately that benefits our education, because having a stable, safe, affordable home is putting our students in a better position to learn. You know, and I think seeing those connections across issues, I think, helps put into context why we're really interested in trying to move forward on multiple issues at the same time. But you know, one of the issues coming up that I'm very excited about is that we've got a plan that's going to the City Council hopefully on Tuesday around the location of a new senior center, which is a huge need for the city. Really about time that we had a permanent home for the senior center that met the needs of our seniors, and I'm very optimistic about what we have teed up.
Chris has done a tremendous job with the seniors. He is just wonderful. Again, let me just take pause for a moment and apologize for the noise behind the wall, because as usual, we are in full swing at the Y today. And so happening behind us, we have 10 very excited, I don't know, 5, 6, 7-year-olds who are using our Adventure Zone course for the first time today. So if you hear screams of delight, they are absolutely cheering on the mayor. But they are also trying to climb up the 10-foot wall that also is in there. So as we look outside, because the last time we were here, it was pitch black at 4 o'clock, so super exciting time that there is some light. So we are gearing up for the summer and for the Y. It is our busiest time of the year, so we will have, you know, 1,000 children in our programs. We will have pools filled with young people. You know, and I know the city too does a lot of summer activities, and we have had a very restricted past couple of years. Is this something that you're super excited that's coming back, or that you're working on for the summer for the city? Because this feels like the first summer we're out of COVID.
Yeah.
When we're back out in the world, we'll see.
Well, on a personal note, I think one of the reasons I'm excited for the summer is because my son has spent here learning how to swim, so we're excited to test that out. But you know, from the city's perspective, I think one of the programs that I'm really excited about for this summer is the Summer Jobs program. And there's a few. There's the City Lynn has a program through community development. Lynn Housing has some summer jobs. Parks and Rec has some particular summer jobs. And we're working to try to coordinate with one another to get that out into the community, because I think those summer employment opportunities are so important for students. The opportunity to you know, earn some income and also become part of these bigger agencies and learn what they do and learn about employment and build those relationships with the people that they're working for, and their supervisors, and also the people they're working with, their colleagues when they're at work. And it's you know, those summer months can be tough, and having those kinds of opportunities for our youth, I think, are really important, and one that we're really excited to be working on this summer.
So we are very appreciative, because we will actually have young people from the city that are working in our programs throughout the Y. So you will see some of the first job kids running around, whether they are in camp, whether they are working at the cafe, whether they are at the front desk. That is all for our formal questioning today. We're good. We're on time today. I love when you and I are on time. But I wanted to give the opportunity to open up if anybody had any questions for Mayor Nicholson. Yes.
I worked in Boston for a long time, and I did a lot of biking from my house to my work, back again to my groceries. And I know when you get densely populated areas, there's always an opportunity to think about different modes of transportation, whether it be biking, walking. I know at some point there was talk of a new ferry that would go into Boston. Has there been any talk about bike lanes, bike safety, making it a bikeable friendly city, not just for, residents, but, for the kids who are going back and forth to these schools, to the Y, to wherever? It's just an issue I think has its time, especially with gas prices going up. So I wondered if the city had thought any more about more bike lanes, more bike security, blue bikes, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, overall, the picture for the city is that we have a lot of work to do on transportation and our roadways, and that's certainly a priority that we're hopefully going to be able to address, starting with the federal funding that we're receiving from the federal government, the ARPA spending, and we're really enjoying going through that process as we move forward. And we've also been really aggressive in trying to get federal grants to redo roadways. And the previous administration under Mayor McGee had a lot of success in getting big grants to do key stretches, and we've started to do those, and they're also teed up for the future, some big corridors. And when you get those federal grants, you are typically following the kind of Safe Streets model, which includes redoing sidewalk and creating bike lanes. Those are federal guidelines, and the state has similar guidelines. So when major roadways get redone, when you start to see kind of the new concrete sidewalks and the new striping on the big main roadways, those are often through the state and federal grants, and then through those standards, you have the bike lanes. I think it's a great point about energy costs and transportation, including public transit. It's been a big focus for us. It's one of those issues that, as mayor, I don't control, particularly the public transit, directly myself, but we've wanted to play a really an advocacy role and try to play a leadership role in the conversation around public transit. And then also, in addition to biking, you mentioned the pedestrian access, and I think that's incredibly important because you're making it safer for students to get around, it's making it safe for elderly people to get around, disabled people who need access, and it also is nice for those neighborhoods to have the foot traffic because you get more eyes on the street and you get more people popping into local businesses, and it's creating a healthy urban community to make the city walkable. And so as we are redoing those roadways, I think that's really a top goal, is to make the city more walkable. So you have the roadways that we're improving. On the public transportation, we're working with the MBTA on improving bus service. We're also really advocating for improved rapid transit. So what we're focusing on in the moment is the goal of electrifying the commuter rail, because you have the tracks there and ready to go, and with a investment that is significantly less than what it would cost to extend the Blue Line. I'm all for extending the Blue Line, but that's a longer term conversation. But in front of us now is this opportunity to electrify the commuter rail, and if you add the infill stations along the way, make the Riverworks a real station, the Everett would be interested in getting a station, and the Revere, Chelsea, you are creating something that looks and feels like rapid transit, because the electric cars that would run a commuter rail are efficient, and they're cleaner, and they're faster, and they start and stop quicker, and you could run them more frequently. And if you combine that with fare equity, so charge subway fares instead of the $17 round trip or whatever it is from downtown Lynn. It would be like having rapid transit. And so we've built a coalition. Senator Crichton has really been an effective leader on this, and so he's gotten the ball rolling in the legislature for a campaign to try to get the funding for the electrification of the commuter rail in the MBTA's 5-year capital plan, which would be a huge win for us, and it'd be a huge win for the region. You know, I mentioned Revere, Chelsea, Everett, and then going north, Salem, Peabody, Beverly. We're all on board that this is what the region needs for rapid transit, and so we're pushing hard to get the board of the MBTA to put that in their 5-year capital plan. I think you mentioned the ferry as well, which is a great point. I think Lynn can really be a hub for multimodal transportation because we have everything, and you can have the rapid transit, and you can have the great bus service, and you can have better roads, and when this is all working together, the traffic's going to improve, right? If you have more people comfortable taking the bus or comfortable taking the train, you have less cars on the road, or more people comfortable just walking where they need to go, or biking. And so I think water transit is a part of that, and we have, the city over the years has been pushing to get a ferry. Just this year, the city received a grant, or EDIC received a grant to keep the terminal in good shape, so that is still part of the plan to try to, there's work that needs to be done to be able to make that work. We need to get the ferry, but we're not only in conversations, in Lynn about why we need to go from Lynn to Boston, but among the region about how you could build a real water transportation network. And we're talking about Salem and Quincy, and Hingham already has a great one, and it's just another important way to get around.
Question on the electrification of the rail line. It's referred as the Newburyport-Lockport line. Is the conversation about electrifying the existing commuter rail on that whole route, or a separate electric commuter rail?
That's a great question, and the focus that we've put is on electrification at least to Beverly, and then I think the team would need to figure it out from there, like how long it would take to electrify the rest of the line, and what the connection will look like, but it's on the commuter rail.
Okay,
line.
So right now we're just looking at a separate service. It's going to service Boston, Lynn, Salem, Peabody,
Up to Beverly.
Up to Beverly.
Right.
So okay.
Right, but the commuter rail would still be there from Newburyport, Rockport.
Right.
Yeah.
So the diesel service will still be there. This is a secondary system we're talking about.
Well, it would be part of the same. It'd be
Right.
the same line.
Tracks.
Yeah. But just that last stretch there. I imagine it would be later. I mean, my sense is that the long-term future of the commuter rail system is eventually going to be electric.
One would hope.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So I think this is just about saying we want to start with the Boston to Beverly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the leader.
Right, exactly. Because we've been so underserved
Right.
by rapid transit, so it's logical that we want to start
Absolutely.
here, and because we're an environmental justice community. I mean, that's an important part of this to remind folks is that when you talk about densely populated urban areas, communities of color that have been underserved by public transportation or transit in general, and also suffering the environmental sort of consequences of those decisions and others, I think there's a real equity argument for why focusing on Lynn and the Newburyport-Rockport line is really important.
I think I have comfort knowing that we have a very good man, Senator Crichton, driving this charge.
Absolutely, yeah, he's been phenomenal, and
Very much so.
yeah, and former Mayor McGee, former Senator, the chair of the Transportation Committee, was, I think, really instrumental in getting this all set up, and Senator Crichton has really stepped into those shoes. And when Mayor McGee was in the Senate, he was the chair of the Transportation Committee, and that's a role that Senator Crichton just stepped into. Senator Crichton is now the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, which is terrific. Very excited for him, and very excited for that vision of public transportation.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Hi, I don't know if you had said anything about this before, because my hearing's not that great, but is there anything new in the senior center opening in Lynn? I thought I heard it might be opening the end of May,
Yeah.
April?
Yep, that's my hope, is that we are that we have a location identified.
Come
Yeah,
Come on.
please, that's my hope that we.
By the end of May, maybe?
Yep, by the
Isn't
end.
it right on Friend Street, did I hear?
Yeah, that's the location that we're looking at. There's
Okay.
still another step that we need to take, and we're looking at eminent domain for that location. And so
Not that we're leaving here.
I would let you go. I would stop over to the senior center to find you.
yeah. So
Oh,
that's
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a great point. Great question.
Does anybody else have any other? Yes?
Well, I can't hear, so. As a really old
to the front.
as a real old person, my taxes are just skyrocketing. And my car insurance, everything is up. Is anything can be done for us old people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is part of what we talk about when we talk about how we're excited that the city's growing, but we also have to think about the effect that that has on folks. And people who are on a fixed income, it can be a real burden. So, you know, we do have a ordinance that we've put forward, a proposal that we're working on with the city council to increase the senior work program. So, you know, that there's a program for seniors to do some, you know, essentially what's close to volunteer work for the school for the city, for sort of work for the city, and then in exchange for a reduction of their property tax bill. And so we're increasing that amount. We're proposing the increase of that amount as one way to address that.
Because I'm close to $12,000 a year,
Yeah.
and my pension and Social Security aren't matching it. And plus car insurance. I mean,
Right.
just because you live in the city, you
No.
get zapped with. And the trash fees, it seems like, you know,
Yeah.
one more. So those are my concerns.
Yeah, it's a great
I'd like
point.
to stay in the city, but I might be booted out.
Yeah. We want you to say, I think, you know, the senior workout program, that's something we're working on right away. And then generally, the city has hired a director of senior services, Chris Goldman, which Andrea mentioned, and I think, you know, working with him, I think it's we're working on trying to put out more information on the resources that we have available for seniors to work on cost of living issues. And so I recognize this is a big concern, and we're working on it.
I can't afford to die, that's my problem.
I know.
More
Yeah.
questions?
Please.
I commend you on keeping true to your campaign commitment about going into the biotech industry. Thank you very much for that. This week in the daily item, talked about underutilized industrial space in the city. What is that space? What are they referring to, and what area of town is that? Where is the underutilized industrial space?
Yeah, so there's space, particularly like on. I don't think I'm gonna sort of list specific sites, but on the Linway, particularly on the GE side of Linway,
Okay.
off of on Western Ave. There's some bigger parcels. Yeah. There's also parts on the Linway even on the ocean side that are
There's areas that could be
exactly
very attractive.
exactly.
What kind of building space is required for these companies? Is it 100,000, 200,000 square feet? What typically do they look for?
So it depends if we're talking about like research and development or manufacturing, and both of which I think we would be candidates for. The manufacturing, you need the space, you need the workforce, and then
truck access.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be able to get to the highway, and then the R&D, you need the space, you need the workforce, and then also, you know, I think for R&D having sort of proximity to the urban community that we have for the workforce, right? To particularly, public transportation or like getting folks here.
It's a perfect place for it.
Right.
It's a perfect place for it.
Exactly. Yeah. So some of the plans would be very large, but I think we have something going there, and what we're trying to do is not just focus on bringing the companies here and the sites, but also thinking at the same time about how we can prepare Lynn residents to be able to participate, right? So it benefits them too.
Yes.
And so we've got a partnership with BioConnects New England, which is affiliated with Northeastern University, on workforce development. So creating workforce development opportunities for Lynn residents to be able to pick up these skills, so that when we do have new success and companies come to invest, Lynn residents will be ready to step into those jobs.
And one more question here. Who is the Lynn BioSafe Committee? Is that a separate committee recently formed?
Yeah, so that's the committee that for the overseeing the rDNA research. Yeah. So that's a proposal at this point that is before the city council. So there's an ordinance that's been proposed that would regulate rDNA research, and it would be regulated by this committee. The committee would be public health, the Lynn Community Health Center, and then some appointees.
Much needed. Well, have the same story to everyone.
Right, and what this is showing is that we're ready for this activity. We're ready to not only for it to be here, but to oversee it properly, because it should be overseen. It's primarily regulated by the federal government, by the NIH and the FDA, but having that local level of control is something that the companies themselves will look for, to show that the community knows what they're doing.
If we want to attract those companies, we need to reflect on what we're doing.
Right.
Have a group that's really highly specialized in recruiting those companies.
Right, and what we've done is we've reached out to the statewide groups that work on this. So Mass Bio, which is like an industry trade group, and they provide a readiness designation. So we've already, since we took office, we've moved from silver to gold on their readiness designation.
Right.
And if we're able to pass this ordinance on Tuesday, we would be able to move from gold to platinum, which is their highest.
Perfect.
And so with the Mass Bio, I don't know if you saw the paper, the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center had a letter out to the editor today, sort of highlighting the work we're doing and their support. On the workforce development side, the BioConnects Ed, which we have an agreement with, and we're working. And then Mass Bio has an affiliate or a sister organization that's Mass Bio Ed that does workforce development specifically, and we're working with them too. And they partner with school districts, and so I think that it's a tremendous opportunity. Obviously, I care deeply about safety, and we want to do things that are safe. But this is what we would be doing, is providing the oversight and making sure that the proper authorities are able to regulate appropriately the federal agencies. And I think it's really exciting.
As a 40-year veteran in the manufacturing sector, I really would love the opportunity to see more manufacturing coming into the country, particularly Lynn.
Absolutely.
And we're just right for it.
Right.
And I've spent 30 years in medical device packaging, serving medical companies, and it's a wonderful sector to do business in.
Absolutely.
Especially with research, manufacturing, nice.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Any question to ask Mr. Abramson?
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Always
Thanks,
happy to
Carol.
host.
I just have one quick question and then others later. But one thing we found out during the pandemic in the education district, when we, the organization within the education district, was trying to provide food and on-site learning, is that Lynn was one of the few communities of its size in the state that doesn't have a food bank. And that became obviously a challenge, to put it mildly. So is there an opportunity, you've only been here a couple months, but I think it would make sense in preparation for anything like that, or any type of weather-related climatic issue, let alone a pandemic, that we, if Salem can have one, and most of the other communities around us have one, Lynn should have access to a food bank.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think food security is obviously really important, and making sure that we're prepared. So definitely be something I'd be interested in learning more about what we could do there.
How do you go about it? Not you personally, but how does the city, do you have to go to the state and apply and to be able to get the funding and the support that they provide some of the other communities?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to take a look at what the other communities are doing and what our options would be.
Want me to help you?
Yeah, thank you.
It'll be a great project for the Food and Security Task Force.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can bring that up at our next meeting.
Terrific. Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Well, because I was deaf, you said something about Pickering.
Yes.
But I couldn't hear what you said. What's happening with Pickering?
Yeah. So we're building a new Pickering Middle School.
Where?
We don't know yet.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're starting the process. So we have a school building committee, a Pickering committee, and they're going to select a location. We're in the beginning of a process, so it's going to take over a year before we even sort of get there. But what they'll do is they'll come up with a list of potential locations, over 10 probably, and then have a process in which they'll sort of narrow the list down and make a decision. But we've had, I think, 2 or 3 meetings so far of the committee, and all that we've done so far is that we've put out a request for applications to hire a project manager, and then pretty soon we'll be selecting a project manager. So we're in the early stages, but we want to be communicating as much as we can about what's going on with that committee. So the first step is we pick a project manager, and then I think we pick an architect, and so that they can start working, and then we'll get into the project selection as well. But the school building committee has a website. We're putting it on our social media. The website has all the committee members, and so I definitely encourage you to reach out to my office or any of the school building committee members if you have questions. But we're in the early stage. We don't have the location. We don't even have the list of potential locations. We have to follow the process that the state sets out about how to make that decision. But we're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, and on the food security, I just want to mention that the Greater Lynn Senior Services is working with the city and specifically Public Health Department for the Phoenix Food Hub. So I think that's going to be a really exciting next step there. So you reminded me of the Food Security Task Force that we have a great team in the Public Health Department that really cares deeply about the food security and is working to make progress on that. The city just in the last couple of years made the decision to offer free meals to all LPS students, and I think that was a really, really positive step forward in addressing hunger in the city. But we definitely have work to do, and I think we have a team in place that's really committed to that issue. So.
Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Andrea. My name is Leroy Ashwood, and I'm interested in knowing if Lynn has a noise ordinance.
Yeah, I believe they do. Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you where it needs to be applied. At the corner of Washington Street and Oxford Street. That's where folks with motorcycles rev their engines. That should be discontinued in this town. That's where folks gain speed on a nice smooth surface from Washington Street up to Market Street. We need to do something about that because it increases as the weather gets warmer. And as more and more buildings with high-income people come into that section of town, they're not going to tolerate that noise. So this is a precursor to a later discussion.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Good point.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Nicholson. If there are no more questions, thank you everybody who joined us and asked questions. We will do another one of these in the next couple of months because we will continue to keep you in the Y, both Sunday mornings for swim and just for other purposes as well, because I just think it's so important and so helpful for your constituents to be able to have access and ask questions. So we're always so appreciative. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me. Thank you for all the great questions. I mean, I think there is it's great to have opportunities to be able to address people's specific concerns, and I also would encourage you to reach out if there was questions you didn't think of today. We feel like we're doing a lot, so we're happy to share what it is that we're doing. And we put it out on social media. We're coming up on 100 days next week, and so we'll be sharing some highlights, and so look out for that. And just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.